Hi, I'm Phazon Kiwi, and in this video we're going to look to discover what the heck is Insurmountable and does it live up to its namesake. Let's find out. Insurmountable is a strategic roguelike adventure game by Bite Rockers Games. Okay, so going into the options menu, you find your usual sliders for music, sounds, and the like. You've got your full screen option, your resolution options, your quality, which is basically just very low to ultra, language and key bindings. So not much going on here. It isn't a big demanding game, but I did find that the lack of options for a few things to be a little disappointing. Moving on, going to new game, here we get to pick our mountaineer. We have the adventurer, the scientist, and the journalist, each with their own starting equipment and abilities. One of the first things I noticed was that the adventurer seems to just have less equipment in general, but also seems to be missing anything to help with climbing or just moving about, such as the hiking staff or the climbing axe that the scientist and journalist seem to have. And this lack of equipment feels strange. None of them have a torch or anything basic like that that you think anyone trying to scale a mountain would have, just ready to go. And it creates a tonal whiplash that I don't think the developers were intending, but I'm guessing they were going for a varied way to start the game to give different experience with the different characters. We'll start by picking the adventurer. It gives you a blurb to read as you go in, but we'll move right ahead. Here we pick our difficulty. We'll go with normal for now, as that's what we have available. This is where things can get a little interesting. So you're not just climbing one mountain, you're trying to reach 3 summits through the course of your run. Now you're getting to pick the route that you're going to take. So each of them have different things going on, and you've just got to pick what you think might be best for your run. Okay, so as you open up, you usually start with this first summit summary, giving you a bit to read and some XP to start with. XP helps you grant skills to help your climbing run. You'll notice right away that we have quite a few things on screen. Bottom left, we have the time of day, weather, and height. Once you pass 6,000, that's when you start to lose oxygen. Time relates to actions. Actions tend to take time, and the weather lets you know what to expect over the next few days. Over here, we have the sanity meter, the body temperature meter, the oxygen meter, and your energy meter, as well as a few tabs and things up here for your inventory, choosing when to sleep to regain energy, and the time-lapse option. The center, you've got your experience, which is how you level up and gain abilities that help making the climb easier, and your hit points. Note that the only way to lose is for your hit points to hit absolute 0. Over here, you have your skills. Currently we have sprint, which means time cost on terrain is less, and we gain body temperature when moving for 3 hours, which can be very handy in the right situation. We seem to have started next to a chest, so we'll click on that hex and then click again to get moving. Note, this is the speed that you move at default. I don't know why anyone would use that speed, so I will show you the faster speed after this event, but right now we've found a chest. We'll dig it out, which will take some time and energy, but hopefully we'll get something useful out of it. We gain some gloves. Fur gloves, which are not as useful for climbing, but more useful for gaining body temperature, so could still come in handy. Right, so if we go to move a little further, this is the speed you move at, climb and such. Here's what happens when you click time-lapse, and it makes it faster. I don't know why anyone would play not with that setting, as it's just too slow as the default. Something you'll notice is that the view sticks to the character. This is so exploring still feels like you're discovering things. If you could zoom too far out and plan your route all the way to the very top, then the game itself wouldn't be as much of a challenge, I think. They wanted it to keep this close, discoverable view. You can zoom right in if you want. I tend to keep it a reasonable far out, not all the way, but about here so I can see where things are. Oh, there's a cave. Let's go see what's in here. Caves are one of the safest places to rest, especially since they're sheltered, so you don't tend to lose as much body temperature. Here we get a couple of choices. Lie down and sleep, or leave the cave. So we'll just lie down and sleep. We'll sleep long, gain plenty of energy, or sleep briefly and gain a little energy. Note that the time down there changes based on what we choose. We'll go for sleep long, and it'll tick down. Skipping ahead a little, we're now into night. Things get colder. As you move, it highlights the things it's going to affect. So now it's affecting our sanity, our temperature, and our energy a bit more. This is why going from night to day and day to night is very important for planning out your route and figuring out what you're going to do. I like that when it hits night, it restricts your view even more, things get quite a bit darker. And that adds a sort of adventurous and dangerous feeling, and it becomes more interesting as different events seem to become available at night, at least from what I can tell. And in general, it just adds a bit of atmosphere to the game. Borders get a little more cracked and chilly and such, and it just has a different feel about it. Like there's a bit of extra danger going on because of the amount of sight that you have. Going up to this event, we have a woman sitting in a hut being friendly, and we can recover something. And now we need to travel back down a bit in order to go further. So, let's make a path this way. And you'll notice that this is most of what the game is. It's moving about, making choices, and spending your resources wisely. There's also quite a bit of reading. Some of the events can be a little longer than others, but at the same time, they feel as though sometimes you could pick the same answer in an event and get a different outcome to your last run, and I'm not sure if that's good or not, because it feels like then you can't game the system, but at the same time, you don't want every game to turn out the same. Looking up, we can see our destination is glowing above, and there's quite a few things on the way up. So as you can see, ideally you want to travel during the day, because you don't lose as much temperature and sanity and such, but that's not always going to be an option. You can't just rest everywhere. If we were to click rest out in the open here, we can use a tent, gain some temperature and things because the weather isn't too bad. But if we didn't use a tent, notice that it costs us quite a bit of body temperature and sanity and such, but we still regain energy. Tents are finite. They only have so much durability, so you might not want to use them all the time, but you need to be very careful with what you choose. Okay, and as we move up here, we got an indicator that it will hit daylight once we move to that spot, with the amount of time it takes. And suddenly we're greeted with what looks to be a storm. So while we have gained a bit of light and such, we've now entered a treacherous part of the game, where things are going to cost us a different sort of assortment of things. We go up the top here, we can look at our environment, and it tells us that we have a 20% energy cost on terrain and extra time, just due to how dangerous things are. The different weather elements can affect the way that the game treats you and such as well, so treat them like random events as well. We'll head to this cave. Dry and sheltered, but sometimes you get the option to explore the caves and such. I've found that with some of the events, unless you have certain equipment, there's not much you can do about them, such as this one. We don't have a torch, so we can't see what's further in without going to the step into the darkness option, and we find we can't go any further. And this comes to one of the problems I find with the game, where having not a basic amount of starting equipment means that we kind of lack the ability to make some basic options. We'll leave the cave for now, and let's have a look at the level up screen. So here we get to choose a specialization. Night Climber, Special Terrain Expert, and Event Expert. I think I'd probably pick Special Terrain in this particular one, but sanity loss and events can also be very handy. We'll go for the Special Terrain Expert. And that becomes a passive. Whenever it happens to be relevant, it will pop in. So unlike the activated skill we have down here like Sprint, which helps us in terms of time cost and raising body temperature, that other one is always going to be active, and you can gain quite a few skills through your run. Keep note that there are 3 summits that you're trying to reach, so this one character is going to go through quite a bit and earn quite a few things in experience. That being marked red, that means we're hitting a point where our energy is getting quite low, so it's telling us that we'll run out of energy by the time we go for that point. We'll get him to walk, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to be climbing for a decent little amount here. But what awaits us? Okay, so we gain a little sanity and some experience. Now you'll notice we're out of energy, so you can hear that heart pounding. It's flashing red, indicating what's going on as well, but now, whenever we take an action that's going to use energy, it's possibly going to have a negative cost to us. So, now you're going to have this noise constantly pumping through your ear, and I understand that it's to represent what's going on and that you're low on something and it's a good audible cue. But I found that it should probably only pop up every now and then. Having it constantly going, I found, made the experience a bit frustrating, and I found myself turning the volume down until I sorted it because I found it got really annoying. However, when you're in your weakened states like this here is a critical event to do with our energy, so we're losing some health, but gaining energy as we stop for a brief moment. So that solves the energy problem for now, but we've taken damage to our health, and keep in mind, health is what you need to survive your trip all the way up to reach the summit, all the way at the top. Your choices will continue like this through the game until you reach the top and have to come back down each summit because it's a return trip, or until your character dies. I haven't reached the top of the third summit yet. The game has been proving quite difficult and offers many different choices and ways to get things and such, and occasionally I've found some events have been kind of baffling. I won't spoil what some of them are because they're part of the core experience of the game, but some of them lead you to make choices that you would think would result in something else happening than what happens. Insurmountable is an interesting game, and it tackles a theme, climbing mountains and such, in a very interesting way as a turn-based kind of roguelike system. And I've never come across that sort of thing before. And while it falls short in a few areas, and I find the narrative beats repeat, and the events don't seem to be as many as you would hope in something where it hopes you play and repeat the content over and over, I did find my time with it to be quite enjoyable. I do, however, have a hard time recommending it fully unless you're okay with the caveats of you're going to have to try this a few times, you might not find the gear you want right away, and most of all, be aware that runs take time. This isn't a short game. It's going to take you a few hours to get through a whole run, and you might find that you fail toward the end, and that can be frustrating as well. I will say that when you get to the summit, it gives you a little overview of the whole place that you've climbed up, and while satisfying, it didn't seem to really be worth it for me, but your mileage may vary. I give Insurmountable a cautious thumbs up. If it sounds interesting to you, you probably will like it, but if you're on the fence, I would say stay away. There are other games you'll probably find that will be more worth your time. If you liked the video, consider subscribing, throwing me a like, and if you're lucky enough, I could be live on Twitch right now at twitch.tv/Phazon_Kiwi. Come check it out, hang out, could be fun.